The most disappointing game of 2023 is Starfield. What was supposed to be Skyrim in space was nothing more than a boring open world RPG that was filled with incredibly empty worlds, a restrictive shipbuilding system, and the game is just super boring. There's really not a lot here. I mean, when the game first launched, I remember being over the moon and having tons of fun, but it was probably by like the second week I was like, is there anything else this game really has to offer? Because once you get through that honeymoon phase, you start to realize all the worlds are basically the same. A lot of the POIs are basically the same. The things you're doing are basically the same. It's very clear that Starfield was built on exploration, and it's a really cool concept when you do it right. Like if you have a bunch of worlds that are fully populated with a bunch of things that players can do or will run by and say, ooh, what is that? And run over to it, then it's a great concept. It's a great thing that will be very engaging for players. But when you have a system that's like this, where you land on a world and get off your ship and then have to run about 5-10 minutes in a direction and hope that you don't hit some weird invisible barrier and actually end up at a POI that is most likely the same POI that's been used on many other planets, it starts to get really repetitive and really boring. And if you ask Bethesda about this, they basically will say like, when the astronauts went to the moon, there was nothing there. They certainly weren't bored.
What?
Yeah, that's because they went to the fucking moon. When you're going somewhere that's not the normal place that you're used to, it's pretty goddamn cool. But I would guarantee you the luxury of being on the moon would get pretty old pretty fast if you said, hey, you're gonna be up there for a month, go wander about and find something to do, when there's literally nothing to do on the moon. Which is the bigger problem with Starfield. Starfield is a video game, and exploring all these different worlds that are basically the same and extremely empty gets pretty boring. Because again, a lot of the locations that you're exploring are basically the same thing. You're doing the same things over and over and over again. You can get to an outpost and experience a very similar looking outpost on another world. Or you go up against a bunch of bandits and then you end up seeing the same bandits in the same location as you would in another planet. And that's barring you running into some weird invisible barrier.
Oh, what the fuck ever?
And one of the coolest parts of the game that I think is probably the coolest part of the game is the shipbuilding element. Yeah, you can do something similar with the outposts, and I will be honest with you as the viewer, I'm not going to judge the game based off the outposts because I didn't really do any of it, because it just seemed like it was just the same thing I saw in Fallout 4 with like the base building, but it was something that just never interested me. What did interest me was the shipbuilding, and if you end up going in to go build a ship or customize your ship however you want, it seems like you have this massive palette to actually customize your ship on, but then you quickly realize it's very limited in how you customize your ship. Yes, people have found ways around this and have made weird looking designs for ships, but for the love of God, why is it so restrictive? Like, there are players like me that don't want to do all these little tricks to make sure they can just make the ship that they want. Like, I just want to make a goofy looking ship that I can fly around and dunk on people.
Totinos, how did you know? Totinos, everybody's talking about Totinos.
The main quest stuff is pretty decent. I think a lot of the side quests that I experienced just felt way better. Like, I don't know, that's just maybe me. Maybe there were players that really enjoyed the main storyline, but eventually I just got kind of bored with the main story. And I will say I'm a little disappointed in myself because I really tried as hard as I could to riz Sarah from the Constellation, but it never worked. Look, the game is just super boring. I know Bethesda's been trying really hard in like comment sections on Steam to make this game look better than it really is, but it really isn't. It's so boring. It is great for a few minutes, maybe a few days, few weeks, but then all of a sudden, once you get past maybe like the midpoint in the main story, or as you start to really explore on your own, it gets really boring. It's so boring that even modders aren't even going to try to mod the game to make it any bit entertaining for players, which I feel like is the best part of any Bethesda game, is the modding community. And the fact that all of them are like, nah, we're good, we don't want to be a part of this, is not a good sign. I mean, I think that's what's kept games like Skyrim and Fallout 4 around for so long. I also feel like if Starfield came out like, I don't know, 10 years ago, it would have been an amazing game. But the fact that we've had so many different RPGs that are so much better than this, that it really makes it not a good looking game. It's just like a generic open world with nothing in there. And it really highlights an issue that Bethesda's been running into for the last I don't know, a few years since they released Skyrim, that it feels like they're trying to recapture that magic that they basically stumbled ass backwards into with Skyrim. And it's like the developers at Bethesda forgot what made Skyrim so good. I mean, I feel like that's a pretty easy thing, 'cause it's a combination of things. It had an interesting story and an interesting world. There were things to do constantly in the game. Like, you'd just be walking and going, oh, I want to explore that cave, or I want to explore that little town. Even the mods were a significant help to this game in making it last as long as it did. Whereas Starfield, you have a game that has a okay story and a bunch of different worlds that are very empty and full of... Look, I got fooled into thinking Starfield was going to be like this amazing game. It was going to just be Skyrim in space, but it really wasn't. It's pretty disappointing, and I hope this might be like something that Bethesda can learn from and improve on, because I don't think they can improve on this game. I don't think there's many other improvements that can come. I know they'll probably add DLCs and stuff, but I don't know what else you could really add to make these empty worlds feel less empty. God, I wish this game was so much better. But what do you think of Starfield? Do you think it was disappointing, or do you think it was one of the best games of the year? Let me know what you think in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, great. Maybe consider leaving a like. Hell, maybe consider subscribing. It helps out the channel. But if you didn't enjoy the video, well, it really doesn't get much better. And as always, thanks for watching, and well, bye.